Why hello you lovely little peppercorns, my name's Noa Lee, and this is not the video that I had planned to release today, but the one I'm working on, she ain't ready for prime time yet. So in the meantime, I figured I'd do a little semi-scripted thing like this in order to talk about a topic that's been on my mind the last couple days. It's something that I don't think warrants an entire scripted video, but it's something I want to talk about nonetheless, and well, it'll give you a little teaser of things to come, too. I'm not gonna beat around the bush anymore because, obviously, if you're watching this video, you saw the title and you already know what this topic is. And that topic is, of course, that I think that right now, video games are more important than they've ever been. And the reason for that is simple. Shit's fucked and we need an escape, and we also need a tool that helps us cope with reality. And video games are the best tool we have to do that. I've been talking about the importance of video games as an artistic medium for over a decade now. It's kind of the central focus of this channel when you get right down to brass tacks. And the reason that I put so much time and effort and thought into my content and talking about video games in this way is because I firmly believe that games have the potential to become the most important artistic medium that humans have come up with to date. Now, do I think that video games are currently at the point where they have quite the same level of prestige as like film and literature and music? No, but they're also much, much younger than those mediums too. Just give it time, they'll get there. But even with video games still floundering about in their adolescent years as we currently find ourselves in, there's still a wealth of things that we can learn from them and ways that we can use them as a tool for both social change and personal growth. And it's very telling to me that in a time when the world is quite literally on fire and most people don't have all that much money due to circumstances outside of their control, that they would spend what little money they have on video games rather than what we typically associate with being an essential item like food and ass wipe. And we know that this is a thing that's happening because right now, video game sales are at an all-time high in a time when pretty much every other industry has been all but destroyed. Video games are not only profiting, but excelling. And it doesn't take a genius to know why. People are looking for an escape right now. Shit's fucked and they need a break. And they're turning to video games to do that. They can't interact with the real world because they're stuck inside and they can't pursue their career and hopes and dreams and starting a family and all these other things that they've wanted to do for the same reason. So video games are acting as a way to simulate those things, to scratch that itch, so to speak, and hold them over until things get better, if they get better. But more importantly than that, I think that people are starting to realize that not only can games provide a distraction from reality, they can also better equip you with the tools necessary to deal with reality. In my video on video game addiction and why I don't think it's a real thing, I talked about how I spent an entire summer pretty much living inside of Skyrim. Between my first and second year of college, I spent roughly 16 hours a day for 3 months straight doing nothing but playing Skyrim. And the reason for that was, well, I was super depressed and lost in life and, all that stuff. And I needed a way to escape from reality and escape from my own mind, in fact, and Skyrim provided that for me. But it had an unintended effect, because when I went back to school for my second year of college, going back into the physics program that I had signed up for, I realized that I now suddenly had this longing and drive to explore the real world in the same way that I had explored Skyrim. Whereas my first year of college was kind of me putting things on hold and trying to, avoid reality, my second year was trying to figure out what I actually wanted in life. And there was a lot of pain and hardship and tough thoughts that came with that, but I dealt with it. And I don't think I would have been able, or at least not quite as well able to deal with them if I hadn't had that experience in Skyrim and, lived as another person for pretty much an entire summer. Being able to play as another human being and roleplay as that person for an entire summer gave me the distance I needed to examine my life and the path that I was on. And lo and behold, I realized I don't actually like physics. I mean, I like learning about the natural world and, I find physics interesting, but I don't actually like doing physics. And that's kind of a big problem if you're looking to be a physicist. You should really like the work. But I did like some work that I had in college, and that was philosophy. I really like thinking, and I really like exploring ideas and, applying those ideas to the real world. And that's something that I did in Skyrim. So when I went back in the fall for my second year of college, I changed my major from physics to philosophy, and the rest is history. I studied philosophy, got an associate's degree, decided college really wasn't for me, and I needed to, move on with my whole life, and here we are. Now, it's very likely that I could have come to this conclusion without spending a summer inside of a video game, but I don't think I would have gotten there quite as quickly. I genuinely believe that allowing myself the distance from my own life in Skyrim gave me the tools within the game, those tools applied to my actual life, and I was able to make some drastic changes that I needed to make in order to live a better life and live a more authentic version of myself. Now, don't get me wrong, books and TV and film and music are all great mediums, and they can absolutely inspire change within one's personal life, but they all have one thing in common, and that's that you experience them from an outsider's perspective. When you're reading a book, the goal is not to become the character of the book, but to empathize with them as much as possible. Same with movies, same with TV shows. And music is even more abstract than that. It's just about getting you to feel a certain way and experience the hardships and pain and joys of the person creating the music. But video games stand alone in the fact that you are experiencing everything within the game firsthand, or at least in a good video game, I think you are. You can still, empathize with other characters, but still, the interaction element causes you to experience that world and the ideas that the video game is throwing at you from a first-hand perspective. And that's something that only video games can provide, and I think that's why they're such a crucial tool for social change and personal growth. Before the pandemic, I was playing a lot of Dungeons & Dragons, and enjoying the hell out of it, I might add. We of course had to stop playing because of social distancing requirements and lockdowns and all of that, and when it was taken away, I realized something about myself, that what I was getting from the role-playing experience of playing D&D was not the experience I was actually craving. And the reason was simple. There were other people in the room. I wanted to fully immerse myself in the shoes of another character. I wanted to, for a few hours, live as another person, think like they do, act like they do. And I could do that to a certain extent, but I couldn't go as far as I wanted because, well, social norms are a thing, whether we want to admit them or not, whether we are consciously aware of them or not. Just by virtue of having other people in the room, even if I'm playing as another character, I'm still playing that character through the lens of myself and through the expectations or perceived expectations of those around me. I can't fully connect with the character I'm playing in a tabletop role-playing game because I'm still, at the end of the day, myself. But in video games, unless you're playing a multiplayer game, obviously, there's nobody there to judge you, or perceive judge you. I don't care if you're the most open and honest person in the world, we all act differently when we're around other people than when we're by ourselves. That's just human nature. It's something that no matter what you do, you cannot avoid. But in video games, sitting in front of a screen, by yourself, in the dark, with headphones on, just completely shut off, you can fully immerse yourself in the role of that character and explore so many ideas and thoughts, whether they be, beautiful or romantic or sublime or dark and disturbing or perverted. You can explore all these ideas in a safe way and walk away from them not having lost anything. You don't have to worry about what others think about the weird chilidog fetish that you have when you play as an anthropomorphic hedgehog from the 90s. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. And there's nobody there to tell you otherwise. You've gained everything. You've gained the knowledge of what it is to experience a world from a certain perspective without any of the social repercussions or physical repercussions or monetary repercussions that come along with doing it in real life. One of my favorite quotes of all time is, "It is the mark of an educated mind to entertain a thought without accepting it." Now, I doubt very much that Aristotle was talking about video games when he said this. However, I think the sentiment applies to what we're talking about here, that video games allow you to explore thoughts and ideas, but not necessarily accept them. Going back to my previous example, say I want to experience what it's like to play as an anthropomorphic blue hedgehog, exploring his chilidog fetish in the world of Daggerfall. Brain, why do you come up with this shit? I could fire up the game, go around from town to town in the Iliac Bay, and looking for the best damn chilidog ever just to satisfy this urge, this craving I have for the world's greatest chilidog. And no one will be there to judge me. No one will know, unless I tell them obviously, that I'm role-playing as a guy who gets off to chili dogs. But then at the end of the day, I could turn that off and, finish my playthrough and be like, well, that was an experience. I don't really, accept the life of a chili dog fetishist, but I might be able to walk away with a new perspective or some new insight that I can apply to my own life that has nothing to do with chili dog fetishism, but is valuable nonetheless. Or to give an example that isn't quite as out there as the chili dog thing, I'll talk about what happened to me while playing Daggerfall just last night. I just got into a new town, went to the nearest inn that I could find, and talked to the local innkeeper to ask for a room when he flat out told me, "I don't like your kind," and then refused to speak to me any further. I'm sorry, is my money no good here? Sure enough, I go up to the other two NPCs in the room and they both say, "I don't like your kind," and refuse to speak to me. Well, that's strange, I thought. Did I do something to piss these people off? So I checked my reputation and it was actually above average. By all accounts, everybody in the region should love me and know of me. So I left the inn, a little puzzled, and I went out into the streets and grabbed the nearest citizen that I could find, and same thing, "I don't like your kind," and they refused to speak to me. I went around to a few more people with similar results. Finally, I got up to a couple people that they would speak to me, but they would only address me as High Elf, when every other NPC that I've interacted with up until this point would only address me by my name, whether they had met me or not. Now, I don't know if this is a glitch or a coincidence or what have you, because as far as I could tell, Daggerfall doesn't actually take into account your character's race when it deals with NPC interactions, only your reputation. But either way, I experienced racism for the first time in my entire life from a first-hand perspective. As a white man living in the Midwest in an area where it's 95% white around here, I had never experienced that before. I know people who have experienced that, who have been denied service because of the color of their skin or their sexual orientation or their religion, but I had never experienced that myself. How could I, living in the area I live, being who I am? How could I ever experience that? But in a game, I did, at least to some degree. And I guess that's what I'm saying when I say that the interactive element of video games creates an extra layer of exploration and understanding and empathy that you can't get from other mediums. And I'm not saying that all video games should be designed with this social tool and personal growth methodology in mind. In fact, I'd say that the best games out there are the ones that don't do this intentionally, that just by being an entertaining game and giving a wealth of tools to their players and encouraging them in a certain way, this stuff naturally happens. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of videos on YouTube of people talking about their struggle with depression and how Dark Souls, the game that is known for being brutally difficult, helped them cope with their depression and gave them the tools necessary to face their depression and deal with it in a healthy way rather than running from it like they typically had. Dark Souls is not a game about dealing with depression. It's a game about dying, losing, getting your ass kicked, but then getting back up and trying again, and trying again, and trying again. And it's this kind of experience that people with depression, speaking from personal experience, really could use, because that's the hardest part about depression, at least for me, is getting up and doing the things that you know you have to do, but you don't feel like it, or you don't have the energy or the ambition, or you just feel like everything is so much harder than it ever has been in your entire life. And then you have a game like Dark Souls that is so fun, and I've sung the praises of Dark Souls time and time again, and it's probably getting old at this point, but to have a game that is designed to encourage you to get up and try again and never give up. That is powerful. And believe it or not, the science is finally catching up with these ideas that I and hundreds of other people have been throwing around for decades at this point. Because just this week, a study out of the UK with a sample size of 5,000, I might add, showed that gamers, specifically young gamers, are more empathetic, more creative, better at problem solving. They are harder workers. They have better mental health. And all these things that we associate with being a well-rounded individual, people who play video games, especially at a young age, excel at compared to their peers that don't play games. That's incredible. And this is an actual scientific study, one with a sample size of over 5,000, not like the fucking studies we get every year that show a link between video game violence and real world violence that have a sample size of like 4. So in conclusion, don't feel bad for spending what little money you have on games, and especially don't feel bad about playing games and having fun right now while the world is on fire around you, because we all need an escape from time to time. We all need to interact with art, and we all need an outlet to vent our frustrations and explore ideas in a safe and positive, non-judgmental way. And video games are the only medium that can do all that and so much more, which is why they're more important now than ever.